Yo, welcome back to the channel. We're gonna switch up the pace. I just wanted to lay out the intro to the Constitution. I wanted to have it all in one section so we can cover the whole Constitution. Um, the Constitution is a divine document written on uh, uh, nature's laws, uh, uh, God's law for the people, and how people supposed to uh, respond. This is their sacred document to the people on the land. Right? This was written by the people for the people. Alright? And the government is in position over the governing of the people from their power. The Constitution is a ancient document as well, I believe, because it goes back to the principle of seven. And for people who know what the principle of seven is, that means that everything is pertaining and built off of the principle of seven, like the seven continents. You understand? Like the 7 days of the week, like the 7 planets, right? The musical scale note, the 7 chakras, is all written behind the 7 principles. It's all written behind cosmology. So let's go over it. The Constitution of the United States of America. We have the preamble. We the people. What people? The indigenous people. The people who was here before the Reconstruction and the colonization of these lands. Right? Before Christopher Columbus was commissioned by Isabella, right, and her counterpart, right, to come over and discover lands that was already discovered. When you start reading about the history, you begin to see the article, right? The article is a layout of agreements, and basically they're basically covenants. All right? And these are the duties, and these are the officers and the power structures that's in place to carry out what they were supposed to carry out for the people. And that was to safeguard the people's secure birthrights. Right? We have Article 1, the legislative branch. In Section 1, the legislative power vested. If you go into the Constitution and you go into Section 1, that will be the legislative branch. It has 10 sections inside of that first article. This is where the laws are created. And these codes and statutes and ordinance, resolutions, and all this other stuff is created. The House of Representatives is underneath Section 2. You see these people on the news all the time. The Senate. Alright? The Senate is a team of senators. I think it's over 100 senators, 100, somewhere like that. But the senators is power structure, part of the power structure as well. Then you have your Section 4, elections of senators and representatives. That this breaks down how they come into office and elected through the people, based on their merits and what they're going to do for the people. Okay. That's what that is. Section 5, rules of the House and the senators. They make rules all the time. Right? Regulate. They make rules. You know, they sit down and they create all these different laws that they can't keep up with. And they only create them to be able to produce more enslavement. Section 6, compensation and privileges of members. This is what they get, they take, this is their pay. And the privileges that they get, the immunities that they get, and the compensation. And it's based on Section 6. So you want to know how the legislative branch members get compensated. Look underneath Section 6. Section 7, passes of bills. When they pass bills and they create these documents, and bills of laws, they're bills. They're also they're bonds, right? Section 8, scope of legislative power. This breaks down what the legislative power is all about. Section 9, limits on legislative power to limit, their capacity. They can, their ceiling is only so high, and they have to uphold the Constitution, and they're not above the law. So, Section 10, limits on states. The states. The federal is over the states. All right, you know that. And then Article 2, the presidency. Section 1, and through that, it goes up to Section 4. And it deals with the elections, the installation, and the removal. The process of him going into in the campaigning to be president, the installation and installing, and him taking the oath and upholding the Constitution and putting him on the panel, installing him in office, and the removal for any kind of high treasonous crime or breach of trust. Section 2, presidential powers. Presidential powers. It says see explanation. The presidential powers are the powers that the president have from being in office and taking on the role as president. And under that office, they have delegated powers of authority, limited delegated powers of authority, because they don't have full power, because full power comes from the people. So the people put them in office, and the people can remove them under any circumstances. Section 3, State of the Union. Receive ambassadors. Laws faithfully. That's just straightforward. Okay. Executive Commission Officer. Alright. The commission officers, you can go and read that because it's all in that third section. Alright. And that's just about the commission officers that are put and picked with a limited authority as well. Impeachment. When you You're not in the interest. You don't have the interest of the United States in your whole office, and your whole interest is basically foreign. That cause high impeachment uh, situations. All right, and it can be anything. Just working with any type of outside entity. Um, uh, really trying to hurt the influence of the government. We educate. Um, that's what we do. Um, and teach people how to be law-abiding citizens uh, as well. Because you have citizens and then you have Moors, right? And we are not citizens of a corporation. We just Moors, right? Um, but they're still citizens that these sections supposed to govern because they're employed by the corporation. So these are the rules for them. Um, when they make these rules, they try to apply it to natural people and citizens of the corporation and think that you won't never know anybody better. But all of this stuff, and there's a few articles out here that we refer to, but a lot of this is them taking over the original government and establishing uh, a democracy form of government after the Republican was kind of dissolved. Well, it was dissolved, but they only kept the name. All right, let's continue so I can get out of here. Article 3, the judiciary. Judiciary power vested. Judiciary power deals mainly with Supreme Courts and things like that, case laws, codes, who has the power, Supreme Court. Then you have the little smaller courts or the inferior courts, which are not Article 3 scheduled courts. They kind of quasi courts. They made up, and they're fraud courts as well. But we talking about the real courts, that has made case decisions on many cases. Um, they have cases there that you have situations in the world where you have cases you can line up and basically break down paradigms and basically hold these people accountable. Because as many judges, I'm not going to call them judges, I'll call them administrators and administrators. They have made decisions on cases, and people have been taken advantage of because they don't know the case laws to use in their situation. So if you have a situation, you go find case laws that already are similar to your situation, and you use those case laws as fact to defend yourself and bring about a suit, right? Judicial power vested. Scoop of judicial power, it breaks that down. Section trees, and it breaks that down. Article 4, the states. That'll be dealing with the states. Basically, get the Constitution and read it. And therefore you'll be able to understand. It's just straightforward. It's just a layout and a contract, and it's a covenant. And it was an agreement on how these people were supposed to act on the earth between the people and the government, basically. So no matter if they get in office or not, it was put in office by the people. The power comes from the people. It doesn't come from government. Government has nothing to give. Everything comes from the people. Right? The gold came from the people. the people used to dig in the ground and get the metals and break it down, and you know, that was their ways of doing business. It was gold, and they took that away. The government took that away and gave you Federal Reserve notes, um, and created a law that made it illegal to possess gold. But when you look at the power structure of the Constitution, it always tells you that gold and silver, right? It says nothing about Federal Reserve notes. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves for thinking that people will never figure this stuff out, and try to do something about it. So I'm a scanner. This is a lot to read. You know what I mean? I tell you to get the Constitution and start learning it and reading it and sharing it with your friends. These are the amendments. Like I told you, we only talking about the 7 articles that refer to us as Moorish American. All this other stuff, the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, all this other amendments, none of those amendments was ever lawfully ratified. They was forced into position with the power structure to create their Federal Reserve dynasty. In other words, it works for them so they can cash out. But they are irrelevant because we talked about the principle of 7, and that's what we're talking about. Only the 7 articles. So get you a copy of the Constitution. All you have to do is go on Google and type that in, and you can get you a copy of it, read it, and hold these people accountable for their actions. Their layout and what they do, how they go in office, all the things, that they're supposed to do in the office, and who they, the oaths they're supposed to take. The process of what the legislative branch is about. The process of what the judiciary branch is about. The process what the executive branch is about, and how they move, and the things that they do, and how these codes, how all of this refers to you, as a contract. This is written by our people, as though the indigenous people, and given to the government to basically how they're supposed to perform on the land with the people, right? This is limitations on them. That's the reason why they can't do whatever they want to do. And you have to hold them accountable to these philosophies. All right, so I'm Maurice Bay, and I tell you to go ahead and study the Constitution, like the channel, hit that bell notification for any updates, and I'm out.